Our story takes place in the south of Japan, in the Yaeyama archipelago, not far from Okinawa. It's the story of an island, Iriomote, a mysterious and wild land. It's the story of a woman who lives in a sensitive world in which men and gods communicate. It's the story of this woman who captures the nuances in heaven and earth to create some extraordinary fabric. It's the story of Akiko, who today is passing on her passion and sharing her secrets.
I was born on the island of Takatomi. My job is dyeing and weaving. I dye with plants, and I weave in harmony with nature.
In Iriomote, in her workshop, Akiko maintains a special rapport with time and nature. In her family, Akiko is the third generation of weavers. She was trained by a Japanese master who is considered a living national treasure. She has worked with one of the great names in Japanese fashion, Issey Miyake. Aged 78, she no longer leaves her island often, since it provides everything she needs in terms of fibers and colors. But her fabrics still travel the world. Tokyo, Milan, New York. She has become one of the only women in the world to create a dialogue between this ancient know-how and haute couture and contemporary design.
My specialties are banana fiber, rami, and silk. At the moment, I am making some fabric samples, mainly mixes with banana fiber. Students of textiles, traditional arts, or ecology contact me to do internships with me. They want to study textiles and soak up the local culture. At the workshop, they discover the natural wealth that can be found here. They learn how to use the materials. What I like about it here, compared to the island I come from, is the variety of raw materials.
Modern Japan seems to have forgotten these scattered islands swept by typhoons. Along the shoreline, mangroves flourish, underlying the contours of the isle. The only road covers just half of Iriomote. Only 2,000 inhabitants live on the island, which is mainly made up of impenetrable jungle. The sun's rays barely penetrate the depths of the primary forest. In places, the knotty roots of great trees emerge before plunging back down into the darkness.
In 1980, I met my husband, Kinsei, and I came to set up my workshop here in Iriomote. That was nearly 40 years ago. Kinsei handles all the outdoor work.
My family has lived on this island for 500 years. I was born on January 15th, 1946. I've lived here for 70 years.
Kinsei is a hunter-gatherer. In the jungle near the workshop, he uses a machete to hunt wild boar or harvest plants which Akiko uses to extract colors.
There are habu vipers on the island, but don't panic. There are not that many on the mountains since they prefer the fields. And even if they bite you, you will not die. I've been bitten twice, and I'm still in good shape. It's a pretty color.
It looks like meat.
Taste it.
Is it edible?
Even animals eat it. It's astringent. Half for the god, the rest for us. If we take it all, he will be angered. A god lives on this mountain. So before we take anything, we have to ask his permission. All the plants on this mountain are protected by this god. So each time I harvest some roots or plants, I put my hands together and say, Bamitoryu. Half for you, half for me. Bamitoryu. I always ask the god to share with me. And I only take what I need. We have always done it like that. It's very important.
Ten years ago, I started a project called Mapay with two creators.
It's been a long time. This is great. It's been such a long time. It's so beautiful here. We haven't seen each other for 3 years.
Mapay is a word which comes from Iriomote. It's the name of a wind from the south, which blows just before summer, a very mild wind. It really is the loveliest season, so we want to create a style of clothes to wear during that period of the year. That was our starting point. Shiaki and I choose the type of fabric to make.
Akiko is in Iriomote. Michio Masago works in the Kanagawa region. And I work between India and Tokyo. But when we meet up here, there's a symbiosis, a natural harmony. Maybe that's what Mapay means. Akiko, look. We dyed this fabric 16 years ago, and it's incredible. The color hasn't faded at all. If anything, it's even more intense today.
Then, Michio Masago uses this fabric and makes the form.
Mapay is not a fashion brand. It's more an attempt to renew traditional garments.
We could obtain something new by changing the combination of colors.
What is that color?
It's made with indigo leaves. It's non-fermented indigo.
If we choose banana fiber, how much do we need?
Not much. Banana fiber only goes well with a more rigid fabric. We have certainly selected some very nice colors, but we have to combine them correctly. Don't feel constrained to make a typically Japanese garment.
We could take inspiration from the kimono made by Akiko's grandmother.
It's dated the 25th year of the Meiji period. In other words, 1892.
We can see your knickers, excuse me.
It makes me want to dance.
I want to dress like that too.
I could even go to work in these clothes.
We have to make the form behind appear. The pleat must be brought to the top of the buttocks. It looks good with big buttocks or a flat bum.
The form of the garment comes to me when I see the fabric. Here I feel the energy of 3 people. But not just that. I also feel the energy of plants, water, the sea, which are all in this fabric. From all that, I find the inspiration which helps me to do the design.
We, Akiko Ishigaki of Iriomote, Shakyamaki of Tokyo, and Michio Masago of Hayama wish that you show us the right path. Making a fabric is quite an ordinary thing to do. When a child is born, it is immediately wrapped in cloth. When you go out, you also need to be dressed. Fabric seems quite banal, but in fact, It's very important because we use it every day. My grandmother used to weave banana fabric. I'm the third generation of weaver, so there are 3 generations which remain. She made many garments which still exist today. Nowadays, we buy clothes from Uniqlo. Then we throw them away when we don't like them anymore. It leads to a lot of waste. When you learn all the stages in the production of a fabric, you have more respect for nature.
The warm, damp climate on Iriomote is favorable for the use of banana fiber. There are 3 sorts of banana trees on the island. One is grown for its flower, one for its fruit, and the third for the fiber. When Akiko arrived, banana fiber had disappeared from Iriomote. For 40 years, Akiko and Kinsei have been reviving this exceptional skill, which requires strength and patience.
Nothing is wasted in the banana plant. Each part is used. The banana tree is the most important plant in Okinawa. They're planted next to paddy fields, since this protects them from the wind. Banana trees are so solid, they can withstand typhoons and make a real defense against the wind. The leaves can be used to wrap food. The trunk is used to make thread. And when the banana tree has been cut, the sap is used as fixer for dye. It really is a magical plant. In a good quality trunk, both the center and the outside can be used. If I want a very high quality fabric, I only keep the heart. It takes around 100 banana trees to make one kimono.
When I strip the banana tree, ideas for the fabric come to me. Each stage is very important. If you start with a purchased fabric, it's not the same at all. But by going through all these stages, inspiration comes naturally. And the main thing for me is doing it in this environment.
I'm always nervous when I start harvesting the banana tree. If it goes well when I start removing the leaves, I'm reassured. There's no set recipe with this plant. If only I could teach my students the right timing, the right quantity of water. That would be simpler. But the conditions change all the time, even from one tree to another. The quality of the water, the time required. There are a lot of parameters in play. That's why you have to oversee the process from start to finish. There are a lot of young people who come here. Their aim is to get straight down to the job of weaving. But before weaving, there's a thread, a field, the plants. These elements cannot be seen in the finished material, but this invisible work is very important. This knowledge allows you to know if you're going to create a beautiful fabric. If you're not careful at this stage, you can't make anything really beautiful. What they call spinning in Okinawa and in the rest of Japan involves knotting the threads together, quite simply, like this. The hatamusubi technique involves attaching the threads like this. But then that makes a knot, which will be visible on the textile. Here, in the Aoyama archipelago, the threads are twisted like a braid. And since we then twist them together, there's no knot. That's my technique. When I study textiles under a magnifying glass, I can tell how the thread has been woven, if it comes from the Yaeyama or elsewhere, if it comes from Japan, from Okinawa, or the Yaeyama Islands. This job takes a long time. It's the hardest part. In my case, my mother used to do it like that. She helped me. Then, when she was confined to bed in hospital, she spent her time making thread. She stayed in hospital for 6 months. When she died, and I was sorting out her affairs, I found a packet wrapped in a big cloth under her bed. When I opened it, I found about 1 kilo of this thread. It was stuffed full. At that moment, I thanked my mother. I still use that thread with emotion.
Welcome to the Mother's Day evening in the Cultural Center. Today, some splendid mothers are with us, even more beautiful than usual. What do you think, gentlemen? Good health. Let's drink a toast to the health of each of them and their families. Thank you to one and all.
Good evening, everyone. Enjoy the party. Mom, if I was ever harsh with you, please excuse me. I depend on you a great deal.
Are all those male mangroves?
Yes, I planted all those. See how they are carefully lined up in a row. It was me who planted them. When you plant that many, they'll last a century. They'll still be here long after I am gone. They can be used 30 years after plantation. Every year, for each one that I cut down, I systematically plant 10 more.
I became the disciple of Master Fukumi Shimura, and for 3 years, I studied natural dye techniques in Kyoto. Back in Iriomote, I tried the same methods, but I observed that I was not getting the same colors. During my studies, vegetal dyes were sober, pale colors, traditional Japanese colors. But I realized that here, it's not really Japan. The way of making the colors is different because the plants are not the same. The sun is different. Even the water isn't the same. Here, it's not like in Kyoto. We're more in a tropical region. From then on, I started to do some tests to compare results. And I've been continuing that research for decades. After returning from Kyoto, for the next 10 years, I did test after test after test. Those 10 years of research formed the basis of my work.
When I'm with Akiko, I listen to every word, observe every gesture she makes. She knows exactly when to dip the fabric, when to rinse it, how long to leave it in the sun. She understands the rhythms of nature perfectly. I learn a huge amount just being with her.
Let's add a bit more. Lime has a chemical reaction with the indigo. A deposit falls to the bottom. Then I put it in a jar, it ferments, and the dye is ready.
That smells good.
Usually people say it stinks. It's the smell of my grandmother.
I feel the energy of plants. When I wear yellow, I feel grandeur. In red, I feel strong. When I dress in indigo, I feel serenity. In other words, I am transformed depending on the colors I wear. When I came here, I understood for the first time how to master the splendor of vegetal colors.
All the plants around us are green. So why do none of these plants produce the color green? I don't know. It's very mysterious. Through the influence of my master, I understood that to make a nice green, it takes indigo and fukuji yellow. There are several plants that make yellow. Kushinashi, kariyasu. There are lots. But fukuji yellow makes the best green.
Among all the colors that the plants of the Yaeyama Islands produce, Akiko concentrates on the three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, a reference to the etchings of the Edo period.
Better than Master Shimura.
Incredible.
That wind is nice. We're lucky. It's not too hot.
There's a Japanese proverb which says, "In a voyage, there is discovery." There are things which become more obvious with age and experience. When I came to Iriomote, it was the same. Things that I no longer saw suddenly came back to me.
Natural colors are fed by the sea and the island's coral reefs. This sea bath eliminates the impurities in the fabric and fixes the color.
Is that you in the photo?
Yes, when I was about 20.
It's before you were 20.
Yes, when I was at university.
You were very slim.
Yes, I was slim. My waist was only 40 centimeters.
40 centimeters? Are you kidding?
No, it's true.
Is that Kinsey?
He was a rascal.
He was cute.
It was a long time ago.
I gave up my teaching career to study textile techniques. Weaving was more widespread on the island of Takitomi, so I went there. It was at the craft center in Takitomi where I met Akiko for the first time.
After Kyoto, I worked in Taketomi, and there, a strange guy came to see me. He told me he wanted to become my disciple. He came from Iriomote, so I asked him what there was on Iriomote. He answered, everything. There's everything you want on Iriomote.
In Taketomi, Akiko's uncle did not want her to leave. Despite that, I did not give up on her, and for 3 years I went back and forth until the day when Akiko's uncle told me, "Kinsei, I'm not giving Akiko to you. I'm giving her to your island, Iriomote." And he added, on one condition. The island of Taketomi is small, and there are no mountains. On Iriomote, there are lots of mountains. So I will swap Akiko for a mountain. I told him there wasn't a boat big enough on Iriomote, but that he could build one so I could bring him the mountain. In the meantime, I could take Akiko to Iriomote and marry her.
My uncle, who raised me, was the only one who understood him.
Before he could finish the boat so I could bring the mountain, the uncle went to heaven. He died. So there still aren't any mountains on Taketomi because he didn't have time to bring one. That's how it happened.
I think he made up that whole story with my uncle. I was born on Taketomi, and I stayed there until junior high. My father died during the war when I was little. I never knew him. My mother raised me alone here on Taketomi. My mother had an elder brother, my uncle, and he was like a father to me. I was born in this house, in the room at the back. This was my grandmother, and in the middle, the uncle who raised me. When I got up, I used to see my grandmother weaving in the corner of the room. The looms were on the veranda. It was the place with the most light, and therefore the best spot in the house. When I came home from school, I used to help my grandmother. She would weave all day long, from morning to evening. When we went to bed, we set up the mosquito net in the little room together. We always used to sleep together. My grandfather, my grandmother, and me in the middle. This house is full of memories for me. When I was in junior high, every springtime we went on a trip. But the school was so poor, we had to make do with going round the island. The girls headed off to the right, the boys to the left. We went round and met just in time for lunch. The island is so small, it only took us half a day to go around it. At the time, I used to think I have to get out of here. I wanted to sail across a bigger ocean, see the wider world. That was my dream.
Just a toast.
Good health.
Good health.
It has a lovely aroma.
Delicious.
Our collection in New York, was it in 2000? 1998 or 2000?
Do you remember?
Was it really 16 years ago? We showed banana thread and explained how to make it.
When I did a demonstration of spinning, the foreign students thought it was magic. Magic, they said. I'll never forget it.
We were very emotional. We had tears in our eyes. Everyone was saying, I want this one, I want that one. I didn't even have time to weep. I was so busy with the calculator. It's always nice to hear I want it, isn't it?
That's true. How quickly time goes by.
During my studies in Tokyo, I wanted to start a new life there. Then, when I became a disciple of Master Shimura in Kyoto, once again, I thought I was going to live there. It was working with Fukimi Shimura that changed my mind. My master taught me to look at the islands with a fresh eye. I started to appreciate their true value. The idea began to grow that I could come back and work here. And that idea became more and more serious. So I came back. This is a kimono that Kinsei wears during festivals. It's the first one I made when I came to Iriomote. This yellow, that's the color of the sun, a traditional color. It's what the gods wear on the islands, dyed with fukuji yellow. In Okinawa, the kimono is called surina, and it's made differently. That is in the style of Okinawa. The sleeves are wide to let the wind through. The bottom is split, and there's no belt. It ties up with a cord. This one is in banana fiber. I made it with my grandmother in Takitomi. This one, and this one I weaved myself, and that one is mine. My mother left me the thread. My grandmother let me choose the kimonos which I liked. Her most beautiful pieces were donated to the Museum of Traditional Arts in Tokyo. I found out when I visited that museum when I was a student in Tokyo. I saw the kimonos that my grandmother used to keep in her wardrobe. It was quite a shock. I realized the quality of her workmanship, and I decided to follow in her footsteps. I create kimonos for Mrs. Arashiro, who was a dance teacher. I asked her what these kimonos bring to her. She told me they give her self-confidence and that they took her dancing to another level. I become aware of what I have accomplished when I see her dancing on stage, in the light. I create these kimonos to see them worn. Otherwise, the emotion is missing. The link between the person who makes them and the person who wears the garment takes on its full meaning when the garment is made by hand.